Now, it's no stranger to me, and probably no stranger to you, that I am a big fan of a good old podcast. And so I thought I would share with you my top 5 podcasts to help ease and soothe anxiety, because what I've found whilst listening to podcasts, whilst travelling around London, is that I feel calmer, I feel more assertive, and for me, I make sort of better decisions for myself when I'm walking around instead of panicking that I sidestepped into an old woman or something. Also, forgive the whiteness of outside. The September sun isn't agreeing with my face. I look like the Phantom of the Opera. So the first podcast that I'm going to tell you about, and that was the first podcast that I ever got into, was The Guilty Feminist, created by Deborah Frances-White. So Deborah Frances-White has loads of other comedian female friends to talk about feminism and the topics of feminism and the hypocrisies and insecurities which undermine us being feminists as women. What's also really nice about it is because they're all female comedians, they choose their female comedian friends, they bring on female presenters or just females in general to be on the podcast, and so there are a lot more women talking and speaking about it compared to what we see on TV, which is loads of men and then that signature female comedian. Like, it's 2018, what are you doing? This podcast is 100% brilliant. It makes you laugh about the relatability of being a feminist and the insecurities that you might have. It has some serious, poignant moments, and it makes you think about how you view things as a feminist, and is there anything that you want to incorporate into your feminist views to be an all-inclusive feminist. One of my favourite episodes is called Image, and that's with Ellen Jones and Kemah Bob. And the reasonings for this episode is because Ellen is just amazing, she's so knowledgeable, but Rosie, when she does her stand-up bit before they get into the real like nitty-gritty meat of it, she's hilarious, she's so funny, and I think you really need to listen to her just being so shocking and risque, but in a really great, funny way. And Kemah is just fantastic, they are just so amazingly funny, and I think they have that deadpan sarcastic funniness to them that really hard actually to pull off, and it's just so wonderful. So do get yourself onto the Guilty Feminist train. My second favourite podcast is called She's All Fat, which is a body positive podcast created by Sophie Carter-Khan and April K. Quio. And I really hope I didn't butcher April's last name. Sophie and April are two people who identify as female, and they created this podcast because they found that on the podcast circuit there was a lack of body positive and fat inclusive podcasts. And so they created this fantastic, funny, enlightening podcast with really brilliant, serious undertones. For me, this is a fantastic podcast. Everyone knows that I love body positivity. I believe in body positivity, and it allows me to see two fat women being unapologetic in their views, in themselves, and the hypocrisies that they have to live with every day from society and how they deal with it. And it's just one of those fantastic podcasts that I get to hear and listen, and I get to think about things that I really don't have to think about, and it reminds me of the privilege that I have as a person with straight size privilege. Essentially, I can walk into clothes shops and I can buy my clothes straight off the rack, and certain fat people can't, because plus sizes in this country and in probably lots of other countries only go up to about a size perhaps 22, 24 at a push. And so it reminds me of the straight size privilege that I have, and how can I use this privilege to allow fat people's voices to be heard, and how can I push their voices gently without sort of me talking over them. I don't want to talk over fat people's voices. If you would like an important episode to start off with, do start off with She's All Fat Goes to the Doctor. It talks about the prejudice that fat people have to deal with when they're in the doctor's office, or when they're in the medical offices in general, just with the hospital, and it's how they are dealt, how they are treated, and spoiler alert, they're treated really poorly. And it's how fat people have to sit in the medical chair which is inaccessible to them, and just hear the onslaught of whatever prejudice this doctor is going to throw at them. And it's really important to hear this and to understand that not everyone gets the same treatment. My third podcast is Made of Human by Sophie Hagen. Sophie Hagen is a Danish comedian, and if you know Sophie Hagen on the comedy circuit, or if you know her from the Guilty Feminist, then you will really love this podcast. It's the epitome of what Sophie Hagen is as a comedian. This podcast is basically her in internet form, and it's very poignant. Even the seagulls agree with me that it's such a poignant podcast. Sophie Hagen does this podcast by herself as the main host. She brings in guests to talk about things in their life or topics in society that they have to deal with, and it's just talking about being a human and perhaps the flaws that we might have as human beings and how we deal with them, and just to remember that we are all human and we're just made of human parts. And Sophie Hagen has a really calming voice when she talks. It's so soothing. The podcast is such a mix of emotions. It's not just straight sadness or straight comedy. It's human emotions in an hour or more, essentially. You can be laughing with the guest and Sophie Hagen the next, to crying because the guest has felt like they can open up to her and they can lay their vulnerabilities on the table in front of her. And you might also be thinking about how you view the world because you never heard that person's side of the story or that guest's side of the story. And so it's human emotions all wrapped up in a podcast. If you would like an episode to help start you off, let me give you my favourite episode, which is episodes 13 to 14, and it's a 2-part podcast episode with the comedian Susan Calman, and it talks about how she deals with the comedy circuit, and it deals with how she feels within that circuit. It talks about a little bit about her school, so definite trigger warnings there in episode 14. They do talk a bit about self-harm, suicide and depression, and so if you're not ready for that, then don't listen to episode 14 quite yet. But if you're in a place where you're okay to listen to that, then do, because that is the one that made me feel I connected with Susan a lot in that episode. It was absolutely wonderful and sad, but it was just lovely to see the vulnerability and how she was sort of okay with the vulnerabilities about her body image and her mental health. And so we get to the men, the podcasts where men get to have full reign. So podcast number 4 is A Gay and a Non-Gay by James Barr and Dan Hudson. And I never thought I'd get into this podcast, but oh my gosh, I absolutely adore it. I will just state for all the aces who might be watching this, trigger warning, they do talk a lot about sex and they're very open about sex and they ask questions about gay sex and non-gay sex, and so if you're not comfortable with sex talk, then perhaps this isn't the podcast for you. But for me, I'm kind of okay with it. It may make me shudder sometimes, but sometimes I'm just totally okay with it. This is a podcast that delves into the topics of sexuality, homosexuality, heterosexuality, the differences and the similarities between them, and how a gay and a non-gay can be friends. Out of all the podcasts that I have listened to, this is the most risque podcast I have ever listened to, but it's risque in a good way, because hey, we need to know about sex, because our sex education might have been a little bit rubbish, and so we need to know more about what goes on downstairs, and this kind of helps with that. But it's also, again, like I said, it's funny, and they also have serious topics about gay rights. And also, to round it all off, we need to find James a boyfriend. It's just standard. If you would like to get started into a gay and a non-gay, I do suggest listening to A Gay and a Non-Gay and a Trans. James Barr, Dan Hudson bring in Juno Dawson, who is a trans female, and she talks about all about trans rights, how trans people are treated in society, how the media perceive trans people, and what's it like for trans women in terms of sex, and how do perhaps the same binary or a different binary, men or women, how do they perceive them when it comes to sex and the bedroom? And it's such an important one to hear about from a first-hand trans person's perspective. And if you want a funny comedic one, I do suggest, because I listened to this one recently, Bruce Springsteen is Daddy. It's just brilliant for James's fantasy and for Dan just saying daddy. You just have to listen to it. It's just classic. And the last podcast that I have for you is Disorder, Every Disney Film by Andy DiGenova, Michael Lyons and Hunter. And it is one of my favourite podcasts. For those of you who don't know, I'm kind of a Disney nerd, and so this ticks all the right boxes for me. It's essentially 3 men who sit down and watch every Disney animated classic in order. At the moment, they've done from Snow White to The Little Mermaid. So they're going on to Rescue Us Down Under. And they talk about the film, the animation, the politics behind it, what are their memories about the film, what was going on at Disney at this time, are they seen in the parks, this film? I cannot stress how much research goes into this podcast. It's absolutely mind-blowing how much research they have to do in order for this podcast to become such an amazing informative piece of Disney history, because there's a lot that goes on in the Disney world and the Disney company that we just don't get to hear. And side note, my flatmate has to listen to me basically blurt out loads of trivia about Disney because it's what I've learnt on the podcast. She loves me, really. Now, this is one of those podcasts that I don't think you can just jump into. I mean, you can, but you won't get any of the recurring jokes that have been said in earlier podcasts. You need to hear it from 1 all the way up to 29. I think 28, 29. Oh gosh, I should know this. Here are some of my favourite 3 episodes of the podcast. Episode 3, Fantasia, just because of the recurring Wilfred Jackson joke. Number 2 is episode 16, that's Sleeping Beauty, just because of childhood nostalgia, and that was my favourite film growing up as a child. And episode 25, The Black Cauldron, because I liked the politics of what was going on in the Disney company underneath this film. I hope you enjoyed this video. This video was voted for by my Twitter followers and also my Instagram followers on my Insta stories. If you would like to have your voice heard, then follow me on my social medias, which will be in the description down below on Twitter and Instagram, should I make another poll for you to click on and for you to have your say about what videos will come out. Don't forget to click subscribe if you've liked this video. Give this video a like so I know that you like these types of videos. Click the notification bell, which just allows you to know that you can be notified when I next make a video. And also comment down below, what are some of your favourite podcasts and what are your favourite episodes? And if you listen to any of the podcasts I listen to, then what are your favourite episodes? Are they the same as mine? Are they different? Let's get chatting about podcasts down in the description. And I hope that you like these ones, these recommendations, and I hope that you listen to them very soon. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!